because whether it's tariffs or it's COVID or it's whatever, the principles apply. Like there are fads that come and go. Principles apply, and they have applied, and they always will. Bringing clients back to that, like, hey, here's what's real. Here's what applies to you, whether it's a recession or not. And if it is a recession, awesome, because you're poised for it, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity.
Welcome into Impactful Conversations, stories and lessons for financial advisors. I'm your host, Dave Edgecombe. We've got a good one because we've got a very topical one, and joining me to do it, the boys from Vincent Financial Group, Matt Decker, Aaron Vincent, and they were in-house doing some radio with their radio host, and we thought, hey, can we steal you for 30 minutes because we think that you guys are going to be able to provide some really good knowledge for other advisors about what you guys are seeing with sort of the ebbs and flows, but overall market volatility. And that's kind of the overarching theme of what we'll talk about. And, you know, if tariffs, if things come up, that's great. But overall, from a financial advisor's perspective, we want to talk market volatility and how it's handled and how you guys, a couple pros in the industry, are kind of tackling it. Before we get into that sort of discussion, though, I kind of want to get a state of the union from you guys in terms of what you are seeing as quote unquote insiders. I mean, you guys are living and breathing it. So what are you guys seeing and experiencing from your side of the table?
Well, I would say even though the topics and the style of conversations are maybe more charged than I can ever recall, you know, politically or with markets and some of the headlines that you're hearing and the energy behind it, it definitely feels more intense than ever. But the truth is, if we just take a little bit of a step back and look at what's going on actually, fundamentally, nothing's really changed. I mean, you've got some political negotiating going on, and that creates news headlines, and news headlines creates market swings, and you start to hear comments like "buy the dip" and panic selling, and it's all the same thing though. Yeah. And so I think it's important for us to be talking to our clients in terms of like, look, I know you're hearing a lot of politically and economically charged stuff, but let's take a quick step back from all of that and talk about how does what's actually happening, like let's attach numbers and dollar signs to it. How does what's happening actually affect your plan? Has the last week or month of the markets, has it changed your retirement income? And if so, how? Maybe we should make some adjustments, but you might be surprised to find out that it's actually changed things very little. And so let's talk about that. Let's get into the psychology of it. So the conversations we're having are not that different from usual. It's just that we're doing a little bit more playing of psychologist, along with the financial advisor.
Yeah, this is actually the most fun, I feel like. When things are up and to the right, that's really the hardest time to be a financial advisor because nobody wants to move. Nobody is incentivized to actually look at their portfolio and say, like, is this doing what I need it to do? Everybody just thinks, oh, this is easy. All the DIYers think they're geniuses.
I can do this myself.
Exactly.
No one's asking questions.
Exactly. No one's asking questions. But when volatility starts punching people in the face, that's when our phone rings. And not with current clients freaking out, but with friends of clients or people that have maybe heard us on the radio. And they're like, hey, I heard you on the radio. And, I didn't understand then, but I understand now. And I'd like to come in and, get a portfolio review, or I want to talk about the risk that I'm taking. So this is for people that are in the retirement planning space, for advisors that are focused on having kind of broader based conversations. They're not just like selling annuities and it's the only thing they do, or not just doing AUM and it's the only thing they do. But man, if you're one of those advisors that takes a bigger picture view of the situation, this should be the time where you're getting the most referrals, where it's the easiest to get people to make moves because there's actual pain points that are showing up in people's portfolios.
Yeah, if you're an advisor and you aren't doing financial planning, now what that means and how that applies and what the logistics are for you and your business is going to be different for everyone. But what I mean by that is if market volatility or whatever the topic is, if that can't be understood in a context of conversation and how it applies to life, it'd be really hard to be a financial advisor if without a broader plan to put things in perspective of what's true and what's not true. So I would say this may be a great time, if an advisor's out fielding those calls, they're afraid to look at their phone or check their email because who knows what someone's going to say. If you're feeling that way, there's a pretty good chance there's some services that you could increase or improve or maybe just begin to offer that maybe aren't as complicated as they might sound, but
Yeah.
really valuable for a client and really makes your job easier.
Are you guys, I feel like I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyways. Are you guys sort of, how locked into the day-to-day and the ups and downs are you? Like when you see that the market rebounds and shoots back up, are you then, oh my God, well, I know you guys aren't doing any of that, but how much stock do you put into that sort of movement?
I'll speak for me.
Yeah.
I put almost none into it.
Okay.
Like almost none. Because if you're invested in the market, you know it's a long-term game. If you're a trader, then yeah, you need to be like at the
that's
computer
a
when
completely
the market,
different conversation.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a trader, then you're not working with a financial advisor. And very few financial advisors are traders.
Yeah.
Even brokers would probably not consider themselves as traders.
Yeah.
And so unless you're living in that world, it's almost going to hurt you to be locked in, laser focused like that, because you are more likely to fall prey to the emotional swings.
Yeah.
And emotional buying and selling is the killer of most portfolios. So we take these times as an opportunity to educate clients. And there's a few things that I love talking about. One would be the Dalbar study. And if you're a financial advisor that's like never seen the Dalbar study, you should go Google that and pull it up and look at it and read it. It comes out every single year. It's a great piece to have on hand to be able to talk with clients who get into that emotional buying and selling. I won't spoil it for you. Go check it out yourself.
That's on you. We'll put it in the description of the video.
Dalbar study. And then the second thing is, and we do this on the radio. In fact, we did it maybe a month ago, where we polled, we used ChatGPT to go back in time and pull market headlines from when the markets were going crazy. And we asked for, source, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News,
Over like
Squawk
70
Box.
years or something.
Yeah.
It's
We
a
went
big period of time.
way back in time. And we said, okay, now line out like the worst market days and pull the headlines from those days. And all the headlines are the same.
Yeah. Copy
You
and
can
paste.
read, it's copy paste. You can read a market headline and be like, man, can you believe that came out last week? And the client's like, I know, I think I saw that article. And you're like, actually, that was from 1940.
Wait, so you guys have both kind of alluded to referrals and new business, but I think correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like two different conversations potentially that you're having with existing clients and the opportunity to get in front of prospects. Before we get into that side of the coin, talk to me about what your conversations are like with your existing clients. Are you guys going out proactively and hunting them down and setting up face-to-face meetings
We're
with them?
calling freaking out.
But are you
I'm
email? No, I know you're not doing that. Again, I know your hair's not on fire. But are you guys being proactive in terms of the first line of
Yes.
communication?
So we have but this says nothing new. This goes back to our
How is your
services-
business set up?
Services to our clients. We have a cadence where we reach out. Someone from our team reaches out to all of our clients quarterly. So if you're our client, you're getting a call or an email every 90 days, if not sooner. And you can respond by saying, actually, thanks for reaching out. I'm good. Or I got to come in soon because the market just dropped, XYZ. So they're getting that touch point regularly anyway. And sometimes, recently, especially newer clients, they are calling in like, hey, I know that you told me that we baked this in. We did the stress test thing,
But is it
6 months
true?
ago, but how did that actually work?
Yeah,
and what
yeah.
is that? The random stress test that you did, like you stress test as if my portfolio were alive in 2008. I'm curious, how does that apply now? So we are having that kind of conversation, just kind of refreshing, reminding, reassuring. But the truth is, maybe this is why we jumped, immediately from your question to new business. There's a lot of volatility right now, and our clients aren't calling like you think they might be. There's a lot less of that than even I would have expected.
But let me add to that. Again, I love the way that you answered that because it does go back to like, how's your business structured?
Yeah.
There are some people that don't do quarterly checkups. There are a lot of financial advisors that like barely do annual reviews. So if you're falling into that category, then your phone is probably ringing off the hook because you're just not in contact enough. But for most of the really good advisors that are like focused on this and trying to go about it in a professional way, like you're reaching out to your clients, they know who you are, they know what the plan is, they're probably not freaking out. But I would add to that over the last probably 4 years, Aaron has done a really good job of firing the clients that needed to be fired.
The ones that would be calling you during this
Right.
recording.
The 80-20 rule, man.
The ones that we sit down with and we're like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, like you are in 100% equities, and every time you come in here, you're asking us why we're not beating the S&P, and we're telling you need an annuity and you won't buy one. And then when something bad happens, they're the ones on the phone being like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And we're like, well, would you listen to us or not? Like, if you're going to listen to us, great. If you're not, then, maybe you're actually not a good fit for us. And maybe this isn't a relationship that's going to work long term. And Aaron's been great at that. I'd say the last 4 or 5 years, we've kind of
It's because
gotten
the
rid
first
of the
10 years I
people.
was terrible about it. I learned some
Like
hard
any
lessons.
advisor had to learn it the
Yeah.
hard way to kind of
Well,
get it right.
and I think
Don't be scared to fire people, though. Like, you have to.
Yeah, I've heard that before about it's a two-way street, and that you need to be able to be comfortable with your clients, because
if you're like most advisors, you hear that, and you're like, yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be great if I could afford to fire some clients. Yeah, it must be good. But
You can't not
the
afford.
sooner, I can promise you, I don't care what your revenue is and whether it's big and healthy the way you want it or it's not there yet, just do it. But one of the main things and that we talk about early in the new client experience, or even as they're a prospect, is alignment. Like I'll say in the first meeting, hey, the goal for today, the goal of this meeting is to make sure that what you want and what you need is aligned with what we offer. And that's not the case for everyone.
Yep.
And that's okay. We can part friends, or what you're going to find, if you don't decide to part friends, if you want to stick around and be our client, what you're going to find is that we are going to dial this in for you to the nth degree. And because that's the way the conversation started, when wild market volatility or elections or pandemics or whatever it is, when that comes up, it's a different peace of mind. That coupled with the constant checking in and the proactive reaching out, even if markets are good. Hey, how are things going? How you feeling? I think those little things that aren't the sexy, like, top 3 ways to build your business. Like, it's not going to make those lists, but it makes your life so much easier. It makes your clients so much more content and secure. It pays dividends.
Yeah. So let me create a scenario for you, because it sounds like you've got a pretty good relationship with your existing clients. So nobody's hair is on fire quite yet. But if you were to get that phone call from Mr. and Mrs. Jones, hey, we need a face-to-face. I need to come in. I need to talk to you. Okay. When you actually sit down with them, what sort of tools, what sort of visuals are you using to kind of calm their concerns?
It
Is
happens.
there something that jumps out at you?
I don't want to make it sound like, if you do a good job proactively, that no one ever calls in freaking out. It does happen. And so when that happens, though, it's so, I don't know, it's comforting for me, and I think for the clients to say, stop by, come in, or let's get on a Zoom and let's relook at your plan. Let me remind you of how we actually baked in market volatility. Remember whenever we were having that conversation about, because we use a risk, a kind of assessment tool called Nitrogen, that really kind of works the client through how would they respond if the market was down this much, not just in percentage. It's one thing to look at the app on your phone and see, the S&P, it's in red and it's down 3.2. Well, okay. That feels very different to looking at your portfolio and seeing, oh, I'm down $100,000.
Yeah.
Like, that's a different reality. So stop in, let's get on a Zoom. We'll pull up your plan. We'll remind you how we baked this in. And it may actually be a time to say, okay, has your risk attitude changed? Maybe we haven't looked at this in 6 months or a year. Maybe you're that much closer to retirement and it is time to make some adjustments in your portfolio. Good news is we can do that. So whether it's just reminding them of the principles that we've already kind of applied to their plan and their portfolio, or it's actually time to make some adjustments. Either way, you can make meaningful, measured, strategic adjustments that make them feel like, okay, someone's at the wheel. This isn't just a passive, hey, just ride it out. I promise
it's
you,
not
it's going to
you're
work
not an
out.
autopilot. I
Right.
mean, that's what I think
Right.
of is turbulence, and a pilot comes on and says, hey, they say that before the plane starts shaking. They say that, and that's what it sounds like.
Even though, it is usually good advice if you've got a halfway decent portfolio that's aligned with your kind of emotional risk ability. Even though that's the case, and even though it's usually good advice, hey, stay the course, don't freak out, just stay the course. That's usually really good advice. But it can't be you being the advisor, you being the one at the helm of their financial life. They need to see it. They need to feel it. They don't just need to hear it.
It's easier to digest that information if you're on like a 90-day review cadence.
Yeah.
You know, if you're doing you meet one time a year and you happen to miss a year, you know, then that hair on fire call is a more drastic call because you haven't had opportunities to check in along the way. So what are we showing? We're probably showing them what we showed them 30 days ago, or, you know, however long it was, 45 days ago, 90 days ago. And we're saying, you know, we're actually not that far off from where we just were when we just checked in. But I also think that it is an opportunity to say, well, hey, well, maybe your risk profile was wrong. You know, like maybe.
Oh, like maybe you weren't being honest with yourself.
Yeah,
back
like
then when you
maybe
initially
the
put this
market
together.
was so good for so long that you're just like, oh, I can write it out. I can write it out. Like I know I can write it out. Well, why would I not? But then when that volatility does come, it's an opportunity to remind yourself of what that feels like. Hey, let's take that risk assessment again. Let's actually see, did we get it right, or were we just in a period of 10 years where like everything kind of felt good and it was easy to say, I'd stay invested. You know, I want the risk. So always an opportunity to just kind of check in and, you know, narrow the field and really dial in on that person and kind of their own emotional capacity for risk. Because it's easy to say, you know, let it ride when everything's going great.
Yeah.
I don't want to beat a dead horse in the planning conversation, but, you know, a lot of the bumps in the road along the way, they don't impact a retiree's or a client's actual retirement income. You know, so they're momentary. It's light. It might not feel that way in the moment, but so if you've got a plan for your client that actually goes all the way out to their retirement income plan, meaning this much per month is going to come from your Roth, this much is going to come from your annuity, this much comes from Social Security. If you got a pension, this much comes from pension, and this much comes from your IRA. And dial down to that amount, and even down to the tax, you know, kind of responsibility of all that. If you've done that kind of work and the client has that kind of data, you begin to see how minor a lot of the market fluctuations and market volatility actually is when it is actually income planning. Now, if your way of measuring how are things going by looking at your account statement and, oh, it's down, it's going bad, or it's up, it's going well. If that's your way to measure success or failure, and it's not the end result in mind, the income, then yeah, you're going to get those phone calls. Like, because there's no way for that client to have a context for what this market volatility means to them or doesn't mean to them. And so, the income plan, and this is where we earn our fee as advisors, right? We don't earn our fee by suggesting certain investments. We earn our fee from being the ally for the client, being the person who knows what to do in the Mike Tyson quote you just alluded to a second ago. Yeah. I love it. Everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. Well, when they come in the office after being punched in the face, that's when you earn your fee. But I just think that level of care is what's critical.
And how you handle that conversation is going to be a big indicator on, are you going to get referrals?
Yeah.
Are you going to keep that client for life? And if they feel like you're in their corner and you're their ally, I mean, yeah, like you're going to get more referrals. They're going to be more comfortable with you. And the next time something happens, that same client, it's a whole different conversation. It's like, hey, that thing's happening again. I remember how we got together that last time and you really calmed my fears. Instead of a hair on fire call, it's a, hey, I need you to do what you did last time and like just paint that picture again for me so that I can feel really good about staying the course. And it's just a much easier, the more you do that, the easier it gets.
One of the things that we're trying to get better at, I'll speak for myself, is being a better question asker.
Okay.
So to your question, what are you telling the clients right now? Well, it's my nature to want to provide answers and just like, you're nervous, you're scared. Let me just fill in the blanks with the answers.
Don't worry about it. Here's the facts. Yeah. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. And so maybe just some advice that I'm trying to get better about is ask 2 or 3 good follow-up questions. Like, why do you feel that way?
Yeah.
Like, you seem pretty nervous right now. Tell me more about that. And that's when you might find out that they're alluding to a past experience or a parent or a family member who lost everything in 2008 or whatever it might be.
I was just about to buy a vacation or spend some money on a vacation. And now I feel like I can't.
Yeah.
You get to the real issue.
Yeah.
So be a better question asker before you start to prescribe things and answer questions. I think that's a way to win the game, because what you're going to find out is a lot of the answers you almost gave, your knee-jerk response, weren't actually addressing their real question, their real emotional need.
Yeah, we've got a podcast that'll drop soon with another advisor, and he uses the language of asking probing questions. And I think that's exactly what you're alluding to about getting to know each particular client and asking questions that are germane to them specifically.
I also think you can't take it personally. Like a lot of times clients are going to come into the office with tough questions. Yeah. And if you're someone who struggles with taking things personally, like I do, I struggle with taking questions personally. Like that question is an attack on me and our profession and like how good of a job we're doing. Yeah. But if you can take yourself out of that and just say, this is not about me. Yeah. You know, there's nothing personal here. Let me just, that's a great question. What is it that you're thinking when you're asking that question? Why do you feel that way?
I like it.
It makes the conversation so much easier. But if you get defensive, oh my gosh, like that's the worst thing you can do.
Anybody I told you to buy an annuity 6 months ago. You didn't do it, so don't call me back.
This is on you, dude.
Anybody who's married knows that that's like the wrong move.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to fall into that, especially when you're talking about money and people aren't emotional and maybe they're a little heated or it feels that way. But don't take it personally. Just walk them through the situation and you're good to go.
So when you're having these conversations with clients and they're doing their own research, they're Googling what the VIX is, they're hearing tariffs, they're hearing all of these things, are they talking recession with you, and how are you sort of talking them off the ledge, so to speak, when it comes to what the next 3 to 6 to 9 months could potentially look like?
I mean, this is why I love these times.
Yeah.
Because this is what sets the table for the conversation that a lot of people are adverse to, and that's safe money. Like this sets the safe money conversation table in a way that people get to see it, understand it. Oh, that's why you were talking to me about why I need safe money so that I can stay on the roller coaster when things get rough. And it's like, this is what we're talking about. I don't know another way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there are some clients who are saying the word, is this a recession? What should we do? Is there anything that we should be doing more than we're currently doing? Like those are common questions. And what are we saying to those? I think it's a couple of different things, but it's all the same answer. It's the same answer just applied to a different kind of level of emotional concern. These whether they're actually saying the word recession or they're just saying I'm nervous. It's usually the same answer. But I think what's important is to give them the framework to understand, let's say it is a recession. What does that actually mean for you? Because a recession doesn't equate to your retirement's on fire. It doesn't mean that. It just does not mean that. Like it quantitatively doesn't mean that for most people. And so I think just reminding of that reality, a recession, look, if you're going to be retired for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you might see
you're probably going to see a couple,
4 or 5 recessions, in your lifetime. So to say that, oh no, it's a recession, do we have to start over? I think that gives you a window into how they're thinking about things, and to remind them that, look, we don't have a crystal ball, so we can't model in exactly. I didn't know tariffs were going to be the hot topic in 2025, 5 years ago, but it doesn't really matter, because whether it's tariffs or it's COVID or it's whatever, the principles apply. Like there are fads that come and go. Principles apply, and they have applied, and they always will. And I think bringing clients back to that, like, hey, here's what's real. Here's what applies to you, whether it's a recession or not. And if it is a recession, awesome, because you're poised for it, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity. Like I'm not, I say this almost rhetorically because I'm looking for a response sometimes. I say to clients all the time, I'm actually not that concerned. My goal is not to get you really big, exciting, sexy returns. And I'm hoping I get that look like, why would you not? Like, I don't understand. And so I'm like, and they'll ask, what do you mean? And I'll say, well, here's the thing. I'm trying to build you a durable portfolio. What does durable mean? It means that you can stay the course when the heat's turned up. And if you can do that, we win. If I can build you a portfolio that when the market drops, 5% in a day, you don't call me and say, move me to cash. If I can build you that portfolio, guess what will happen? You will get those big, fun, exciting, sexy returns because you'll be poised and you'll already still be in it when it does rebound. Whether it's a recession or a quick, 15-day blip on the radar screen, either way, if you can stay the course. And let me show you how you can stay the course. Hey, just let's pull up your plan and let's look at the fact that this market volatility doesn't affect your retirement income by $1. So this is why you can stay the course. And then 6 months from now or a year from now, when they did get some really exciting returns and we can say, hey, you can spend more if you want, that's a fun conversation. But we're kind of trying to set that stuff up now.
Yeah.
But look, the answer is the same. It's all principles. There's no, well, the answer is this if it's recession, or it's that if it's pandemic. It's the same principle.
Yeah. So I want to kind of sum up the client perspective of it as proactive communication, check in, be active in their retirement, and you'll have lots of more encouraging conversations, or at least be better prepared for those conversations. But what I'm hearing from you guys is opportunity knocking right now.
Oh, yeah.
From a prospecting standpoint, in terms of getting in front of new people.
Yep.
One thing I've realized and heard through a Snappy Kraken webinar yesterday that I listened into is this is a great opportunity for referrals, because you've got a client that's really happy and calm. Hey, my guy called me. Well, your guy called you, and that opportunity. So what are you guys seeing from the referral front before we get into kind of getting in front of prospects?
Yeah.
If you're a client and you're working with a financial advisor that only calls you when something's on fire, I mean, and then when you come in, they're defensive. Gosh, it's the easiest time in the world to get that person into the office. You're calm, you're cool, you're collected. You're like, hey, we actually reach out every 90 days regardless. And, we build you a plan and we stress test it so you can see what happens when things get crazy. And if you ever have a question, just come on in and we'll chat about it. I promise you, your demeanor will instantaneously click with that person that's working with the advisor that's not proactive, that only reaches out when things are going wrong, that gets defensive when you question them. And that's the easiest relationship to build, because you're the good guy in that situation. You get to be the hero that comes in and is like, hey, actually, it doesn't have to be that way. It can be this way. So that's what we're seeing a lot of. This is the time where you do get referrals, and you get them from the clients that you did a really good job of not just reaching out when things are going poorly, but just always being top of mind.
Sort of country club talk is how I kind of, and instead of water cooler, I mean, it's country club talk where a guy's talking about his retirement portfolio and he's really comfortable and he shares it with the guy in the locker next to him, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a really hot referral.
Yep.
Yeah, and look, the reason why we are chomping at the bit right now isn't just because we've got better portfolios and we manage money better for our clients, and that, I hope that's true. I think it shows itself to be true often, but the real benefit isn't that. It's that we are emotional beings. Human nature is one that includes emotions. And though we can say to our clients and do client events and find a way to mine for referrals, hey, would you mind just letting the top 3 people that that we could help? Would you give them our number? Would you have them call? Like, we can ask that all day long. But as emotional beings, if we arm our clients with, hey, do you know anyone who's really nervous right now? Like, do you know anyone who's questioning kind of, can they retire or not? Like, who do you know that's in that category? Now you've given them a context for who this applies to, not just doing me a favor of, here's Aaron's number, here's Matt's number. Like, you may want to call them. Okay, I did my good deed for you, Aaron.
Yeah.
No, it's like, oh, I can actually be connecting my friend with a better financial advisor, a better experience. Now they've got an emotional situation to apply that thing too. And that's gold for your clients who want to refer you. And so, I mean, we've gotten more referrals in the last month than we had the 3 or 4 months combined before that, only because of, look, volatility brings opportunity. If you're a DIYer, or if your advisor calls you once every couple of years, the past 10 years plus have actually been pretty easy to do that well. So we say opportunity, and volatility is an opportunity. It's because I had a mentor back in college. I did an internship, and I'm not sure where he got this from, but he said a quote to me. He said, hey, it's only when the tide goes out that you find out who's been swimming naked. And so the tide's out during volatility, and there's the naked truth. And so these are times when it's actually relevant. And man, they only come around every now and then.
What are you guys seeing from an event standpoint? What's the opportunity that you guys are really chomping at the bit to put together an event to get in front of prospects?
Well, we've had a lot of success with, really, before volatility hit, was you get in front of a room of people, and man, there's no better way to build credibility than to stand up in front of a room of people and be like, hey, what, I know, you got maybe the mailer. Let's just say it's a dinner seminar. Hey, you got the mailer. Here's what it said. But like, what do you guys want to talk about tonight?
Ooh.
What do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Write it on the board. And man, if you can hit a majority of those topics just off the cuff in that environment, that is such a credibility builder. And to be able to have that type of confidence and swagger now when things are feeling turbulent, if you can be the person that can stand in front of a room and be like, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? They're all going to say market volatility. They're going to say tariffs. They're going to say trade war. They're going to all this stuff.
All the buzzwords.
And if you can be the guy that's not scared to just stand up there and answer some questions and talk about it and say, I'm actually not that concerned about maybe these couple things, and let me tell you why. That right there is huge, because people want to work with someone who's confident. They want to work with someone who feels like, man, that guy just opened up to a floor of questions. He didn't know what we were going to say, and he didn't care. He didn't care what we were going to say. I could have said, I want to talk about anything. And he would have wrote it down on the board and then said a little thing like, I like that.
LeBron versus Jordan. Your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. So, we're trying to do more events right now just because it's an easier environment to be the cool, calm, collected financial advisor who's willing to take some questions and, maybe have some tough conversations.
Yeah, there's real value in being able to wrangle some cats, I would imagine. When you when you in that scenario, do you ever get worried that it's going to turn into like a political town hall and it can get away from you really quick? Obviously, you're approaching it very confidently, but
if you don't have the personality or the experience or the confidence to be able to control the room,
you're probably not doing it in the first place.
You're probably not doing seminars.
Well, and don't try it. It sounds like.
Yeah, and two, you probably should work on that first, because you got to be willing to. I mean, we just did one a couple weeks ago, and I had to say to a guy, "Hey, if you want to talk anymore, I'll talk to you afterwards. But for now, I need to get everybody else's questions."
Yeah.
And so you got to be able to interject and kind of take control of the room.
Control the
whether it's a
room,
client event or it's a dinner seminar or whatever it might be. No, to your point, I mean, there is some risk in that.
I also think you all know your cities, your towns, like know.
That's true.
You pretty much know who's showing up to your events, especially if you're somebody like we're on the radio. We talk about stuff. People kind of have an idea of where we lean politically, and so I just think it's good to be upfront about who you are and what you think, but also, you got to be able to throw your weight around a little bit. If someone's trying to take the conversation in a direction, you just say, "Hey, appreciate it, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for this stuff. Let's move on."
Are you guys creating new events to do like around this, where like you've already got on your book, you've got your calendar mapped out, you've already got one on estate planning that's going to happen in 2 weeks? Are you saying, hey, let's get one on the calendar in 3 weeks that's going to talk solely about tariffs, or talk about something like that, and creating new events out of this opportunity?
We're going to try just a more general seminar, like
that sort of open the floor.
Yeah, like an educational, like a retirement basics, and we know what we're going to get. We're going to get the people that have whatever that hot topic kind of question is. Those are the people that are going to show up, but it'll be the same situation. Hey, what do you guys want to talk about?
We're doing more what we call client appreciation events. So it's not, we're big on education. Like all of our content online is big in education, and dinner seminars and other events are great ways to educate. But we're starting to do some events where it's just appreciation. It's just like, hey, come, and your only ticket into the door, like we're doing a Braves game here soon. And your ticket into the door is to bring somebody who you think we can help. All expenses covered. We want to just have a good night for you. And we'll work the room, and we'll have a strategy, and our team's going to be really well educated on what we want them to do and what conversations and how to lead. But the tone of the event is just, can we have some conversations with some new people?
Yeah.
So I think anytime you are willing to open up the conversation about money and investing and taxes and market volatility and all that kind of stuff to a pre-retiree or retiree in a no commitment, no strings attached environment, I think if you like what you do and you're generally good at it, you will have success. I just think now is a great time to be having those conversations.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great opportunity to get us out of here, because if I'm picking up on anything, it's your hair is not on fire. Neither should any financial advisor. And ideally, your clients shouldn't be leaving your office with their hair on fire. You should be prepared to handle that conversation, but not necessarily scared to handle it. And I think from a prospecting perspective, this is a great, volatility, opportunity.
Yep.
So I think I think there's some real value there. Guys, thank you for sharing your insight. Thank you for letting me steal 30 minutes of your day so you guys can get back out there and keep helping your clients and getting in front of them.
Yeah, man.
This has been Impactful Conversations. If you've liked what you heard here, like and subscribe to it. Matt referenced a chart that we can put in the description.
The Dow bar study.
That can be a resource for an advisor, for them, for when they sit down, because I found that visuals can really, really help. Data and visuals can help with some of those tough conversations. So
Just
again,
go to ChatGPT and just ask it, tell me about the Dow bar study.
or you could go that route. 2 ways to do it. Thanks, guys, again, and we'll see you next time.